I sort of thought I really want to be in front of the camera. I want people to know me rather than being like this anonymous person. I think becoming a YouTuber is incredibly difficult. How can I put my hands in lots of different pies so that I'm not just relying on YouTube? I kind of got the advice from a couple of different people to just stop. And I regret it so much.
Today on the podcast, I am joined by YouTuber, entrepreneur, Oli White. Oli, how you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really good. Really good.
Good. Let's take it back to how did you start on YouTube? Like, do you remember the first time you just like picked up a camera and started editing? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I had, my dad bought me this computer for my bedroom, and I just thought it was like the most amazing thing. It was like literally like this wide. It was just like an absolute brick. And like I remember like we didn't have internet for ages, and there was obviously like the whole dial-up and all this kind of stuff. But moving on a little bit from when I first got my computer, I started watching YouTube videos and you know, a couple of British YouTubers, a couple of American YouTubers, and I was so fascinated and sort of confused as to why random people around the world were watching these creators. Like what's special about them? What are they doing? So I sort of understood lots of things from, you know, people doing comedy skits to then sort of like show concept ideas to then like vlogging and seeing daily vlogs. And like I absolutely became obsessed. Like I became obsessed with the characters that were on YouTube, and like especially sort of like the vlogging and like seeing people's lives. I just thought it was just so incredibly interesting. And sort of from that, I got quite a sort of an interest within it. My mum would always say, oh, you'd be a really good Blue Peter presenter. Like, will you be really good presenting? You're very confident when you're talking to people and stuff like that. So I think that kind of like spurred me on to be interested in that field. And then, I got a camera. I basically started just like testing, like filming things. And like, as you can imagine, the first videos are awful.
Have you still got those videos?
Do you know what? It's so annoying. Like they're not on YouTube, but I had everything on a hard drive for like pure memories. And like a couple of years ago, I went on it, and I think I accidentally must have deleted like everything that I had created. And it's frustrating. Like when I say accidentally, I genuinely accidentally, I was copying stuff over, and I don't know whether it got corrupt or whatnot, but it's quite frustrating. I lost a lot of like really old content. I used to do a lot of like challenges, and, you know, the vlogging, it would just be me, you know, going on a bike ride and filming 5-6 minutes of content and just sort of looking around and going, what can I talk about and film? And it was like such a slow growth. I mean, where I really, so before like the filming of me being a personality, I did a lot of like gaming. So it was like with like Call of Duty and, you know, a lot of other games like that. I filmed that content and put that up. But then after doing that for a while, I sort of thought I really want to be in front of the camera. I want people to know me rather than being like this anonymous person. And YouTube was still in the way that it was like still weird to like put yourself online and film yourself. And I think my parents were a bit like, okay, look, like, you know, go for it. They've always been incredibly supportive, and that's what I like really thank them for.
How old were you when you started putting videos online then? So
like gaming stuff, I think I was around about 14, but I wasn't actually physically in the videos. It was mainly just like showcasing gameplays and stuff. But I think me being in the videos probably like 16, like 15, 16.
Still pretty young, and quite a long time ago for parents to even understand what that is. So to have a parent or parents that are supportive.
I mean, they basically said to me, they said, look, you need to get a job. You get a job. As soon as you earn enough income from your YouTube channel to cover your job, you can then quit your job. And for me, it was perfect because I had a goal. You know, and they allowed me to do that. You know, some parents could be like, oh, what are you doing? No, you need to go and do this, do that. But my parents were incredibly encouraging of like letting me have the freedom to discover what I wanted to do on my own, which, you know, is really great.
And were you completely self-taught then, filming, editing?
Like I've always been like completely like self-taught with like everything that I've done. I think in a creative world, and like digital world and anything to do with kind of media, I think the best way to learn is just do it. I love watching tutorials and like videos on YouTube and stuff, but you can't really teach creativity. So, you know, I just kept getting, and I still do now, I get obsessed with things. And when I get obsessed with things, I kind of like, I feel like in my head, it's like a completion bar. And like, how completed am I with this before I'm kind of like over it and I'm ready to move on to the next thing. So I, you know, I would start learning like, how to use Photoshop and how to, edit and just simple things like that. And then I'd get really interested in like how to build websites. And I was always like quite interested in computers and like the technical stuff. I did, well, they called it IT, but I did IT at school, but that was just like, it's not exactly stretching your knowledge. And then I went to college and that was media production, but it was just, on our like second year, we were learning like how to efficiently set up a tripod, and it was just ridiculous. I was so far ahead, which I think, anyone would be if they were interested in that. You should know just how to do these certain things. And the pocket money I'd get, I'd buy tripods and equipment, and I just was really interested in it.
So you skipped uni. There was no...
I was always wanting to go to uni. I always wanted to. I very much wanted to like, do the college and then go to university. And again, it was going to be like studying media production. And I was sort of toying between the idea of like visual effects. I really liked visual effects, and I was interested in potentially doing that with like movies and adverts and stuff like that. And then as I was in college, the YouTube videos just started to pick up, and I was seeing more viewership, and it was sort of a clear path for me to go, I need to focus on this because this is doing something now and there is opportunity in the future. And I saw what, the big YouTubers were doing, and, the monetary opportunity that was there. And just decided that I need to give this a go for myself and kind of, work for myself and be my own boss.
Is that then your kind of advice, not to put words in your mouth, but for younger people who are maybe 16 to 18, they don't know whether to go to university, they're starting to build a social media profile. Do you think it's, I don't know, as accessible to become a YouTuber these days, or a TikToker, or whatever it may be?
I think it's really hard. Like, I think becoming a YouTuber is incredibly difficult because the platform is, I wouldn't say the platform's very fair in like distributing content out. It's not like a TikTok. It's not like you could just post some random video and kind of go over like viral overnight. I mean, maybe you can depending on what the content is, but it's incredibly hard. And I've found that over the last couple of years, as I've sort of slowly started to not produce as much content, producing like 15-minute like videos, 20-minute videos, it is really difficult to like keep people engaged for that long. Back in the day, I'd like sit down, do a 10-minute Q&A, and the video would get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. Now you need to follow Mr. Beast and buy someone a private island to get anywhere near that kind of like competition. So I've always found it recently that the bar has been raised so high that I think unless you're like a very extraordinary character, or you are doing something that's very niche and hasn't really been done before, it's very difficult. But you then have the likes of, TikTok and Snapchat and the more short form platforms where you can grow a significant following overnight for doing the most random, like just simple basic stuff.
Do you think the short form rise of content has been a good thing for the industry?
I think it's been a good thing, but I also think it's been a bad thing. I mean, I think it's quite damaging for young people to be able to put something out, kind of get stardom overnight, and then not really know what to do, and then never have that as a real plan of where they want to go. They might think it's a great thing, and it could be an awesome thing, but it also could be, a highly negative thing. You see a lot of people when they have that overnight stardom that, they have so much attention around them. When that then goes, they have no idea what they're going to do with their life, and they haven't sort of set things in preparation of like what's next.
It's interesting because we manage a lot of TikTokers, and I think that the one thing that's really just kind of different to YouTubers is, and this is going to sound super obvious, and I'm saying it out loud, but it's so obvious, is that the amount of time that it takes to produce a good YouTube video is 20 to 30 times what it is to do a TikTok video. I think they're surprised by the input that it takes to build a YouTube channel, but also, like you said, the algorithm isn't that favorable in terms of pushing YouTube long form videos out. So they get a few hundred views and they're like, nah, I'm out. It's not worth the amount of time that I've just put in. So I think that personally, from a social media standpoint, I think it's great for an accessibility thing that a lot of people can get onto TikTok or onto YouTube Shorts, whatever it may be. But I do think it's saturated the market quite a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, as you said it, like YouTube is a hard platform to crack and a hard platform to like gain that following.
Yeah.
I mean, even myself now, like thinking about producing a YouTube video, I'm like, oh God, like.
But you've stayed super consistent. Like I was looking at your channel, like years and years of consistency.
Yeah, because it was just so fun. It was so new. It was so fresh. There were so many like amazing brands and like things changing in my life. All of my best friends were doing it. So it was just like perfect. It was just such a great like time of my life. And now it's like more focusing on like what's next. And, you know, I've always thought about that, like even before I, you know, stopped uploading as much as I used to, is that like, what is next? Like, how can I put my hands in lots of different pies so that I'm not just relying on YouTube, because it won't be there all the, you know, all the time and forever. And also, is it something that I want to be doing when I'm like 35, 40, I'm still like vlogging and like cooking things in my apartment. Yeah.
What about, how do you like stay consistent, not even just from the practicalities of editing, posting, but coming up with ideas and being creative? How does that, even now, like how do you do that?
So back in the day, I used to create a lot of like really random videos.
Yeah.
And random videos are just like, they're just all over the place. One minute I'm like trying to do a comedy skit of something. Next I'm doing a challenge of how many raw eggs I can eat. Then I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And the problem with it is that if you have one video that does well and they like that style of video or content, or, you know, it's then hard for that viewer to come back if you post something then completely different. It's like if you were a podcast channel and then you uploaded like gaming videos all of a sudden, you would lose that audience. And for me, I started working on concepts, and I think like concepts and like repetitive patterns of videos for me is the only way I would ever be able to like produce more content on YouTube, because it's just so difficult to make hits that are just one-offs all the time. So I very much started doing stuff with James, and you know, we would like, honestly, like I'd go to like Toys R Us and be like, right, what quirky games can we buy? There was one that you have like this like helmet thing that you put on and you got to pull these sticks out and there's water at the top and it will just all dribble out if you pull the wrong one. And it's just like videos like that just did great. So once I did that, I was like, perfect. We now have like 10 other ideas because there's 10 other games out there that we can produce content from. It was like the Q&As. It was like, that was a concept that we did. And then we really started moving into like the food, because the sort of the Q&As and like the talking and stuff, that started not becoming as popular anymore because every YouTuber was doing that. And it was like, how can we kind of be different? So we started like coming up with weird concepts, like blending everything. So we would buy like, you know, every single dairy milk chocolate bar. We actually haven't done that. I don't know why I've just given that as an example. We'd buy like every single like Millions flavor, like the Millions little sweets, blend them all up, and we've got to drink them. And like, you know, we called the blender Brenda, like Brenda the blend. It was horrible. We'd like blend every single like flavor of cheese. And it was just like such weird concepts like that. And my brother brought such an interesting dynamic because he's quite an odd character, and you know, he would just not want to eat anything or do it. And you know, but it made the video really funny, and you know, it was very good fun. And we also then you know, did concepts like trying everything off the menu. Just like, you know, you don't have to be you know, that smart to come up with them, but it's something that you can then repeat over and over again. It's like you can do Nando's, McDonald's, KFC, and that's basically how I lasted so long, was that we could just make so much content around one concept.
What about the production side of it though? Like, how do you stay on top of that? Like, did you have, because we've got a lot of creators who like, they'll have bank filming days, bank editing days. Like, how did you do it? Or did you just do it as and when you needed it?
So I was like the sole filmer and editor for a long time, like until like 22, 23, maybe something like that. I'm 28 now. So in the last like 4 or 5 years, I don't at the moment currently, but I've always had someone work for me just full time. And their job was just filming, editing, and just kind of like looking after like the production, and then, you know, other businesses that my production company looks after. And I didn't mind the filming. It was the editing. I really don't like editing. I've done it so much. I don't want to see my face that much, you know?
True.
I'm just on a screen all the time.
Or listen to your voice like all day.
And it's like, I then find my creativity lacks massively because I just want to get it done.
Yeah.
So I'd much prefer to give someone that like creative control to be able to edit it and like put their own spin on it, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never had a big team with like the production side. With filming, you know, we'd sometimes, depending on what the content was, like what kind of the one-off videos, like the more larger videos, like they would take a couple of days to like film, couple of days to edit. But for more of the concepts of like, you know, cooking something or trying food, like we could film like 4 or 5 in a day, and then that's like a month's worth of content done.
Wow.
And then it would maybe take like a week or maybe like 4 or 5 days for my editor to crack them out, because it wouldn't take really more than a day to edit it, because we know what the style is, we know what we're doing. And YouTube videos are like, you can film them in a way that they're quite easy to edit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for example, a podcast, you don't really need much editing to it. So it's more just like watching it back and looking at it.
Have you seen this AI editor we were just talking about?
Yeah, I have. I tried it out.
Did you?
It did a pretty good job. It did a pretty good job. It's kind of scary.
Is it?
Like it's just scary, all these things coming into play, because it's gonna really shape things up massively.
Did it do a decent enough job for you to put it out, or did somebody have to go back in and maybe like tweak?
I think
things?
you'd always need to tweak it.
Right, okay.
And I think the problem that you find is that it would make it and it adds like the captions and stuff, but if the captions are wrong, you can't edit it.
Yeah.
Or if like you want to do a certain cut. So what I found with it is that when I was with the podcast that I did with my brother, we have 3 camera angles, but it then wouldn't kind of like understand too much if we did like quick cuts for like comedy purposes or effectiveness. It didn't understand it. But I think if you were doing more of like a very chilled like business sit down chat, like I think it would probably work very well for this.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were talking about potentially trying it for one of the podcasts.
You should try it.
Well, how important from an editing point of view though? Because you mentioned you had the same person kind of full time. Because a lot of our creators are like, oh, should I get an editor? Should I not get an editor? And the only thing I say to people is, if you're going to get an editor, because some of the top channels still edit their own videos.
Yeah.
If you are going to get an editor, it needs to be the same editor every time. Because it's very difficult, like you say, to get that feel for it. Like, have you found that to be a really key element?
So I've had like 3 maybe 4 editors, different editors, and like a lot of it, like when I first start working with a new editor, is like them understanding your style. So there is a lot of like back and forth for them to like really get to grips with what it is. But my videos were always like relatively easy to edit. You're not editing a movie. It's like just adding things together. It's like a zoom in for certain effects, adding a bit of text here, adding something quirky, and then you know, them also having their own creative like twist on it. And you know, I like that. I think in businesses you should always hire someone that is better than you 100%. At that job. You know, if you're not, then is it the right hire? Maybe not. But I always looked for people that were just better than me and that could do it and really enjoyed it. But I did always edit my like vlogs. I didn't want to lose complete control over editing. So the main channel they would edit, and like the gaming channel, and you know, help with creating graphics and different things like that. But the vlogging channel vlogging's quite a personal thing. So if I'm talking about something and then I'm like, oh no, I need to do that again, or it's not right. Like sometimes I don't want someone looking at the rushes or the raw bits of it, because it's like a video diary sometimes, you know? And I kept control of that because I thought it was important to, you know, be a part of it.
What about your socials in general? Have you always kept control of that, or have you even had people come in and help with the posting and whatnot?
I've always kept control over my socials. The only time I worked with someone, it was just an agency, and they sort of saw an opportunity to like cut down some of my YouTube videos and put them on Facebook. And they did it. You know, great guys, great agency, but like the videos didn't pop. And to be honest, like the editing style of it, like I'm kind of surprised they didn't. It just wasn't right. And I never really thought it was that right. So then I took it back, started editing those videos and doing it myself. And then I just saw instant like viewership straight away. So I think it was really down to like the style of how they were done. And because they haven't created that video, it's like,
hard, isn't it?
It is hard. It's very difficult. So I think it's important to always keep like your hand on the wheel and to be involved with everything, because as soon as you lose that control, I think you can lose the real like authenticness and like the kind of storytelling of videos and content.
And what made your audience like you in the first place,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
What's it been like because you mentioned, and we'll go into it in a second, into going into different revenue streams and different businesses and stuff like that. You've obviously started a CBD company, right? How has it been balancing your socials and your companies at the same time? Like, that's a lot to take on.
Yeah. So going back to kind of like when COVID hit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can say COVID. When going back to when we had that, bad break and illness in the world.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot. I mean, like a lot of people, you know, I find myself very fortunate and lucky, and like there's so many other people out there less fortunate, and you know, but my mental health struggled, and you know, it was a time where it was hard to sort of film with James. He was kind of doing his own thing, and you know, no one was allowed to leave their houses, and like, you know, I don't have a very large apartment, so for like creatively thinking and like having spaces to film different content was like very restricted. And you know, it was kind of okay, or being inside, well, this is different, this is weird. But then after some time, it was like, wow, I haven't uploaded in a while now. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't work with an editor or a filmer. Like, how am I going to make content? And I kind of got the advice from a couple of different people to just stop. And I regret it so much. Like, they were just like, oh, you should have a break. Like, why don't you have a break? And like, you know, that should never have been given the advice that I was given. And these were people who were working with me on a professional level. You know, it's not like my family thinking about my well-being. These were, you know, people that I had a commercial relationship with. And, you know, I really wish that the advice was not stop, and it was like, just have a break for a month, and then let's work together to figure out what you want to do. Because that break, as soon as I went from uploading every single week for years and years and years to then not, if I tried to do that schedule now, it would just feel so weird. Like, just completely weird. And unfortunately, it kind of got to the point where I then just became it was so normalized to not upload videos that it was really hard to get back into it. And that's kind of that was the point where I then just sort of stopped uploading regularly. I've done sort of a couple of videos, but I think I've done 2 or 3 in the last like a year or 2.
That's crazy.
I've done vlogs.
To go from like doing every week to just not. And your whole mindset change is kind of fascinating, really. If you think about it.
I think I got to a point where I was like, for a while, I just wasn't enjoying YouTube, and I basically was just like, I'm over it. Like, I was doing other things. I was like having fun with doing a bit of streaming. You know, me and some of the guys in my group, like we were doing some streaming stuff, and I was also focused on like lots of other areas. Like at that time, like throughout COVID, like cryptocurrency was a massive topic, and I've been investing in cryptocurrency since like 2017. So it started to surge, and I was like, okay, wow, like this is where my like focus needs to be. And I very much switched my focus to like where I see the biggest opportunity at that one time. So right now at the moment, like my time split between my own social content and my company is the majority of it now, I would say, is probably like 80% on the company. Because the socials I focus on, but I've always been consistent with short form. Short form's great because it takes no time at all, and you know, you can do very well, and it's you get that dopamine hit of if it does well. And I've always been, you know, very much used to that, uploading a video and it doing well, and you understanding how much you are going to get for that one video. Switching to then a business, which we've now been building for 3 years, has been like a really weird shift in mindset, because it's been like a long process of building something, and it's sort of slow rewards, and it's nothing like how you would with you know, YouTube and working with brands and things like that. So my time's mainly like on unique, because I see that being a really big field in the future, and once it's set up to a place that can kind of like automatically run itself, it's like then I can be like, okay, well, where is now my focus going to lie? Is it like solely on that, or am I splitting up with other things?
How did the idea for Unique come about?
So after sort of before I'm not even going to say it actually. It was years ago now. It was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And it was sort of like, as I was not coming to the end of YouTube, but it wasn't like in the real middle of it when things were going mad. I would just start getting like a lot of anxiety by going to events like red carpets and, you know, just filming things with brands. I just started to not enjoy it as much. And like meet and greets, like I loved it when I was sort of in my like early 20s. Like it was just like such a new crazy thing. And then as I was getting on, I was like, I just don't like this anymore. And like I love meeting viewers. I love it in like, you know, if I see someone on the street, like I'm happy to talk to them, happy to take pictures, happy to do whatever. But like when you have to meet like 3,000 people in one room, it's like it's not then as enjoyable, you know. So I basically started looking like, okay, well, like what can I do to kind of like calm my nerves or anxiety? And as you do, you probably look on, you know, Amazon straight away. What can I buy? And there was a lot of products, and they were just like hemp seed oil. And where I sort of found out about CBD was through my mum. She was not very well. She was going through chemotherapy, and she was trying to find like any kind of like natural remedies to help her through that whole process. And she was obviously, you know, had crazy anxiety at that point in time. So, you know, she recommended, you know, using some CBD. And Evie and I, we were out in America, and obviously their laws with, you know, cannabis and CBD now has, you know, changed so rapidly that their CBD, we had like some CBD chocolate. And I just felt like this wave of sort of like calmness and just like I don't know how to describe it. It's just like I just felt balanced, right? So we came back to the UK, and we were really interested in like what products are on the market. So we looked on Amazon, and there was a lot of products that were hemp seed oil products, and hemp seed oil it contains little to no CBD in. It's basically just the seed that they've extracted the oil from. So you know, there's maybe some things that are good about it, but it's not the sort of full potential of actual CBD. So we kind of felt, after buying that and using it for a while, and then sort of later studying and realizing that, you know, it's actually a bit useless, we were just sort of a bit frustrated that we sort of felt a bit scammed. But also this was the only thing on Amazon, and there wasn't many like CBD companies in the UK. And if they were, they're a bit shady, they're a bit dodgy, their branding was a bit off and terrible. They had massive cannabis leaves on them. And we were like, no one is going to, like no 40-year-old middle-aged woman or man is going to buy that, because they're going to see that as like a negative thing, right? As a negative connotation. So we saw an opportunity to kind of like shape up that industry into something that's a bit more science-backed and a bit more professional. So we started looking at like different people that we could work with, and we actually started formulating our own products for like ourselves and like friends and family. We just wanted to kind of see what we could do. We put a small bit of money in, and this is before we had a company or anything. And then we produced an oil that was just like really, really nice in taste. All of them that we tried, they taste like dirt, and they just were not very pleasant. And we made that one which was like a really nice, like refreshing, like natural peppermint, and we were just super happy with it. And we had some really good like reviews and feedback from family and friends. We were like, there's an opportunity for us to do something here. So we partnered with a lab in Manchester, and they work on all of our formulations and all of our products. And we're proud of the fact that like we work, you know, on our products in the UK, and all of them are custom formulated. So a lot of products you'll see, they're white label, which essentially means that the company has produced the oil and they just fill it into different branded bottles, and they can do the branding for you, this and that. But we wanted like a complete hands-on approach. Being called Unique CBD, we couldn't go down the route and start using like white label products and stuff. So we started formulating that, and we did 2 oils, ingestible oils, which started to do really, really well. One for the day and one for the night, which varied in different strengths. And then we started to like just want to pivot in different areas and really like test the field and the market. So we pivoted into like skincare products, because we sort of, a lot of retailers and companies and people were a little bit not concerned, but it was still, they were on the edge about whether they want to take an ingestible CBD product when it was such a new market. So we wanted to create something that was like more for the skin, that the CBD can absorb in the skin. And there's, you know, a lot of research out there to demonstrate, you know, what CBD can do for, you know, as a topical product. And so we released a body cream, and then we released later two serums, which were equally great. Like we kind of like, we wanted to make like the most natural kind of like serum as we could. And the market research that we did, we looked at a lot of like really high end brands that were selling serums for like 100, 200 pounds. And we then, after sort of diving into their ingredients a bit more, that some of them used fragrances, and they just weren't sort of the best, like most natural ingredients. So Evie, being the absolute sort of skincare fanatic that she was, she started working out like, okay, what ingredients do we need in this? How are we going to formulate it? And then we made it. And I don't really use skincare, but I absolutely love the serums. They're so silky and like smooth on your face. They're really great products.
How do you get around the misconception of CBD? Because as soon as like, if I said CBD to like my parents, they'd be like, why are you smoking weed?
Yeah.
Like the first thing that would. So how have you, or how are you trying to like change the misconception of it?
Yeah. I think it's naturally changing, like as more news and research and things come about. I mean, for us, it's like, you know, we're a very like minimalistic, white and black branded like type of company. And I think firstly, it's like branding. You know, it's also education. Like we focus very much on education. We have like 50 blog posts all about education on our website. And then on like our Instagram and TikTok, like we are trying to educate the user as much as possible. But where we've really had so much trouble and issue is that you cannot advertise CBD and you cannot say anything positive about CBD. So we cannot pay anyone or even use Google ads to market our product, and we cannot say what it would do for you in any kind of positive way. And being able to not do that, it's like, how can you sell? It's very difficult. So that's where with the skincare and like for our night drops example, we can talk about, so our night drops, we can talk about the terpenes in that and some of the ingredients in the skincare, and we have to just like completely not talk about the CBD.
That's wild, because we had a French, I can't remember the name of the company, we had a French company approach us about doing an influencer campaign.
Okay.
And we said like, you can't talk about it. So I don't understand what you're going to want us to talk about in these campaigns. So we didn't end up doing it because it was...
So we can get anyone else to talk about it.
Right.
I just as a founder can't talk about it. And to customers, we basically have to be just like very careful. But there are so many brands that will say CBD is great for pain. This is the pain product. This is the anxiety product. I mean, they're health claims, you know, almost the medical claims, and you know, it's kind of the highest level of claim that you can make. And a lot of companies, they don't even know what they're allowed to say and what they're not. But we want to be so careful because we really see ourselves being in this industry for a long time and adapting as the industry does. And we want to do it so professionally and so right that like we have to be on the edge of caution like all the time with it. But it sets us back, and it you know. We have a disadvantage over some others, but you know, we just continue, you know, building and working away. And we recently, about 6 months ago, we saw an opportunity in the market for a healthier vaping product. I don't know whether you know, but the vaping epidemic in the UK, but not in the UK, Europe, and the world is just insane. People are absolutely addicted to vapes. You know, I see a friend and they'll lose their vape and they're like scrambling, like it's been 5 minutes and they're losing their mind because they can't find where their vape is. And we were just like, this is insane. There's so many young kids starting to smoke, and like it's just terrible. And I think the issue is that it's the peer pressure of it. It's like, and it's the wanting to fit in. It's like if we went to a bar and had a beer each, well, actually, no, if I had a beer and you didn't have a beer, you'd sort of be like, well, what do I do with my hand? And that's what then people get out their phone and they're just like on the calculator or like, you know, it's just, it's to fill that awkward void. And a lot of people, they don't want the nicotine. They like the taste of it, but they don't want the nicotine at all. And then as soon as they've had it for a bit, they're addicted, then they want to buy it. And then it's really hard to quit. So, and then the other problem is disposables. Disposable vapes are absolutely awful for the planet. Like it's a lithium battery being buried in the ground after you've puffed it for one day, but essentially. And we did a video on TikTok where we went around London, and in an hour we found about 70 disposable vapes just littered. And that video went really viral. It did about 15 million views. And then we've sort of gone out again to try and do the same video, and we've gone, it's a lot cleaner around here. You know, the council they've seen the video because it's a lot cleaner, and obviously that's great, but it's still not solving the problem. So we launched a CBD bar. It's a rechargeable system. So we wanted to obviously kick out the using of the lithium. There's zero nicotine in it, and we have two different strengths, so just like 150 milligrams of CBD and 250 milligrams of CBD. And again, can't say too much, but like there's some we've had some really positive reviews about people being able to swap it out for something that they're addicted to, and now they're not addicted. And it fills that void as well, of like, if you want to fit in, well, and you know that you're going to go out tonight and smoke someone's nicotine bar, well, there's an option there that that you don't have to do that. But we always advise that anyone that isn't a smoker already, like we don't want to create more people smoking. We want to help people stop. So we would always advise like the ingestible oils or something like that over than vaping, because at the end of the day, no one should be breathing in any chemicals. You should just breathe air.
How you mentioned earlier that the reward from building a business just takes longer than maybe some social media success that you've had in the past. How have you stayed motivated during this journey? Because it sounds like this has been going on for years at this point. And I'm sure there's been ups and downs, like any business. Yeah. How have you stayed motivated throughout that time?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some really cool things. Like when we sort of launched our oils, we were the first company to advertise with TfL on the London buses. We're now in the general store next to the Battersea Power Station, and we're expanding our kind of like retail outreach at the moment and having some really positive conversations. I think really it's like looking back on like where we started and like what we've created now, and to think that like me and my partner have developed this company and developed all of these products is quite incredible. Like I'm really proud of what we've done. We have a way to go, but I'm just so proud of like what we've been able to achieve. And there's only two of us. Like we've used freelancers here and there, but like there's literally two of us that have solved every problem we need to create these products.
That's insane. You've done it on your own.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and as you said, you always have problems, but it's I think having your own business is actually just about finding solutions and problem solving, and you learn that more and more. It's like at the start, I literally think the world would be over if we didn't have a certain thing, but you learn about it, and then you can like adapt, and your feelings and attitude towards things then change into more of a positive light.
That's one of the best words of advice that I've had from anybody on this podcast thus far about business, which is it is just problem solving. And like you say at the beginning, it's like your world's ended because your website's not working, or you didn't get paid by a supplier, or I don't know, a freelancer screwed you over, whatever it may be. But all you've got to do is just keep getting up, keep moving forward, figure that out. And if you keep doing that for enough time, you'll have success. It really is true.
It's perseverance. I mean, we've also seen a lot of companies, like CBD companies, go bankrupt. And these are like some of the biggest ones that are stocked in major retailers. And they just like haven't.
Why do you think
the market is definitely like slower at the moment, because it's just such a new industry still. But a lot where we've realized where a lot of companies get really messed over is consignment. And consignment is where you will give the product. So let's take a large retailer like Tesco's, for example. You give Tesco's, they might go, we need 100,000, let's say, bottles of CBD oil. You have to produce those 100,000 CBD oils and give them to them, but you only get paid if they sell them. So it's like the worst deal for anyone going into a store. And we just go, we're not doing it. Like we will just not do consignment, because it's the way that I think you genuinely run the company into the ground, unless you have really big funding, you have really deep pockets, and you can afford to do it and like not care. And if they don't sell in the store, you can then sell them somewhere else, and you've got a really massive customer base. But if you're just starting out, like, I don't see that as a positive at all. You're not getting a buy, you're getting a shelf space, but it still needs the user to be able to want that product. And if they can simply order it online, and that's why we've mainly been just an e-commerce business for the last like 2.5 years, because it's just so much easier to operate. We don't need anyone taking ridiculous margins from us and things like that. Like we can do everything ourselves. If we all of a sudden just need to sell out of all of our products because we've got a problem, we just click, okay, the inventory is now 0, and it does it. But in a store, if you go in there and promise them that you're going to keep delivering stock and then you can't, well, then you've got a legal problem because you're then, going against a contract.
Is there anything you can do about that consignment issue? Is there, like, can you get, I don't even know, like 50% up front or anything like that? Or is it just they've got all the leverage?
It's two. They either buy the product from you or it's consignment. So it's either, some stores do it and they buy it from you. Obviously, they're then taking on the risk. Consignment, you are full risk, and they could just go after a month, oh, we don't want them anymore, here you go. And for us, we just don't like that. It's like, if you want to work with us, like, you've got to buy the products from us.
You've got to believe in the product.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very common for lots of brands to do consignment, for sure. And it's mainly about the space. Lots of brands, they lose lots of money being in retailers, but it's because then if you buy it in store once, you might visit their website and then you only order from their website again. So it is a real kind of like, it's a kind of a conversion in a way. If you're in a big retailer, someone instantly believes that and has trust in you, right? And that's why we did like the campaign with TfL on the buses, and like, we really try and make as much like high quality content as possible, because we don't want to sort of follow the crowd and do what they're doing in the space.
No, it's super smart. One of the things that I want to talk to you about that we were talking on the way here, and you've mentioned it, is you made this business with your partner Evie. I made our business with my wife Amy. What is it like working with your better half?
Yeah, I mean, look, like to sum it up, where we are now, like, incredible. Like, I couldn't ask for like a better partner, to be honest. Like, we're in a business sense, we're just very aligned now. At the start, you're always going to have problems where you have a shift of like, one person might think the company's going in this direction, the other person might think we're doing this, and but we've got to a stage where like we know what our strong points are, and we know like where our position fits in the company. Even though there's only 2 of us, we know what our strong points are. Like, Evie is incredible at the design, the look of the company, the formulations for the product. Like, she's just so good with that. I can come up with like the video concept ideas, and it's more of like running the day-to-day business of side of things, and finding suppliers and working how we're going to do things logistically, and things like that. And I quite enjoy it. I like sitting at my computer, and I like kind of like problem solving those things. It's just amazing, and I'm just can't wait until we're at that position and we're just the company's grown to such a size. We're just like, wow, like, I can't believe we've done this together. Like, what better way to do it with your partner?
Is it hard to switch off when you're together?
I think that's the only thing that's like quite hard, is that we have an office in our apartment, so our apartment is a bit like a workspace at the moment, but it's temporary. And as soon as we get an office, it's like all the work stuff is in the office. As soon as we come home, it's like switch off. But we love it, and I think that like obviously you need to have that separation. But I also believe that if you love something so much of like work, then what's the problem with that? I think if you were constantly complaining about work and talking about the negatives and things like that, then there's a problem. But when you're so excited for something and you're creating and you're able to use your skill sets together, it's an amazing thing. It's amazing.
I will say one thing. If you figure out how to leave it at the door at the office, tell me, because there is no way that's going to happen. Like, I know I'll get home tonight and I'll be like, I do not want to talk about work. And it'll be like 9 p.m. and we'll both go, did you see this? And then like the next hour in bed talking about, I don't know, something tiny. And then we're like, even if we're on like, we'll be on like a date or something. Not that we do that much anymore because of our daughter, but we're going on a date on Sunday for our anniversary. taking our daughter with us, I know for a fact, even if we say do not talk about work, something will get brought up about work, because it, like you say, because we both love it though.
I think if it's whether you're talking about like loads of negative things or it's talking about the excitement for the future. I think if you're talking about excitement for the future, I think that's a natural thing that any couple is going to talk about, because it's exciting to be in it together. But if you're like constantly like moaning about this and this isn't right and that's not right, then it's like you're then kind of like putting a negative environment and just about the work. But it's hard to get that balance, and I'm not very good at balancing things. Like I'm kind of like an all or nothing type of person. And you know, in my mind, I'm like, well, when we get to the business to a certain size, like I will then just switch off. But I, like equally, no, I won't. It's like I'm going on holiday tomorrow for like 10 days. And like Evie knows I will be working like the whole time, but like working in a capacity that like I might have an hour's call here, I might have to do some emails in the morning, but I love it. I'll go down while she's
you'd rather do that.
I'll go down while she's sunbathing. I'll sit in the shade and do some emails, because I just burn like crazy.
I'm the exact same. Like we're going on holiday in a few weeks' time, and she's like, "Are you going to do a bit of work?" And I'm like, "Yeah, are you?" And we're like, "We'll do a bit of emailing because that will help us switch off more than somebody." Do you know Alex Hormozy? He's like a really, really ripped guy with a hat, and he wears shorts. He was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast.
Yes. I watched a bit of that.
And he was basically saying, we should get rid of this idea of should. Like, you should do this. You should switch off when you go on holiday. You should not watch Netflix. You should go to the gym. He's like, why? He's like, he was saying, I love to work for like 10 days straight, and then I have a break. I don't really have weekends. And people are like, you shouldn't do that. He's like, why? Because for me, I like it. Like, that works for me. The one thing that resonated there about working with your partner is, I think that one of the best things that I find about working with Amy is that she gets it when I have to spend days or hours working. Before, when we didn't work together, she still kind of got it, but now she says it's far, far easier to understand that, because she's like, I've been there now. I understand why you're having to do it. And I think I love that element of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, like Evie's so supportive. Like even when I was doing the YouTube stuff, like if I'm up till 2 a.m. working, she is like, okay, that's fine. Like you're, you know, she's not, oh, you've got to now come and give me attention. Like, you know, I think if it goes on for a couple of weeks, she's like, look, like I need a bit of attention now. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you with what you were saying about like, you know, should do this, shouldn't do that. I mean, even I saw my parents yesterday, and you know, even when I was chatting to them, I sort of like quickly opened the laptop, do an email, and you know, as I was leaving, she was like, oh, right, you go home and relax now. You deserve a rest. I'm like, but I don't want to. She's like, no, but you need to. I'm like, yeah, but I don't, because like I'm naturally as a character, like I'm kind of like bouncing off the walls with like excitement and things anyway. And if I don't get it done, like it literally gets jammed in my head, and I'm then thinking about like 100 different things. And the more I get out of my head and done, then like the happier I am with it. And I think if you run your own business and you're doing things that you love and it's excitement, like it's just like a hobby. Like, you know, it's just
anything you're passionate in. It's quite difficult to switch off from it if you play sport. If you're a musician, like Josh is a videographer, like never wants to put down a camera, kind of thing. Like it's the same thing with everybody.
I need it for my mental health as well, to like keep me doing stuff. Like I think that, you know, it's everyone always strives for like, oh, I can't wait for retirement. I want to retire early and then do nothing. I'm just going to play golf all the time but it's like you will then get to a point where you'll just be like, what do I do with my life anymore?
You'll then get bored of golf and all this kind of stuff.
and you'd just be like, what's my purpose if like I'm not working on something? And I always for my whole life I want to be able to be in a position where like I can do the things that like I want to do. So like the running of the company and stuff, I do not want to do that. Like, I do not want to do the admin. I do not want to do that. But I want people to come to me going, right, okay, for this year, we're thinking about launching this product, this. What do you think here are the designs? And me to go, yes or no, or I like it or I don't. And then give that sort of like top level input, but always be thinking and always be like working on something. I really think it's important.
I agree. To round it up, what is your biggest lesson, whether social media or for business, for future social media creators or entrepreneurs, that you've learned over your time of doing both of those things?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just like persistence, like just like keep going at something, like even when something isn't working or isn't going your way or you don't really see like where it's going to lead to, just keep going, because so many people just like stop right before that big moment could occur. And I've experienced it so much before where like I've had thoughts of like, maybe this isn't right, maybe I shouldn't do it. And then I've persevered with it. And then, you know, instantly almost gone, oh my God, I can't believe I thought I was going to stop, because now this has happened. Like, this is amazing. And really it's just like, you know, doing stuff that you love. I think it's so important to just really enjoy what you do, and you're only going to do much better at that in the future, and just like continue to grow as a person if you're, you know, enjoying everything that you're doing, really. And also remember that like things are always going to be tough. Like, it's always going to be hard. It's always going to be like, you know, difficult to do things, especially when you're trying to run your own thing, like a company or whatever. Like, it's not an easy task, and that's what you're getting yourself into. But, you know, go for it. Don't be afraid. And sometimes, like, you know, that afraidness, it can kind of like try and consume you, but it's kind of a good thing in a way. It drives you forwards, and it's just the unknown, basically. And, you know, you'll come out the other side, and you'll be questioning why you ever doubted yourself, basically.
Love it. Oli, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.